Side is one of Chicago's three major geographic regions, along with the North Side and the South Side. It is home to several neighborhoods that have played a crucial role in the city's cultural and historical development, shaping Chicago's identity over generations. However, Chicago's West Side has long battled a complex web of violence, gang activity, and structural challenges. Gang rivalry, especially among major groups like the Latin Kings, Vice Lords, Black P-Stones, and others, have fueled cycles of retaliation, shootings, and fear. The violence doesn't just occur behind closed doors, it plays out on commercial corridors, in abandoned lots, around transit stops, and in neighborhoods where safe spaces are scarce. The West Side of Chicago bears a lot of the city's violence. In 2021, the 11th Police District, which covers Austin, West Garfield Park, North Lawndale, and parts of East Garfield, recorded 105 homicides. By 2022, the Harrison District, encompassing much of the West Side, reported 353 shooting victims. Overall, nearly 9 out of 10 shootings in Chicago occur on the South and West Sides, highlighting the concentration of gun violence in these communities.
Nigga 252 cards in the deck, deal it out the way you want it, no guarantees in the witty city, feeling you if we feeling you hard to respect. Yep, the situation could be pretty icky, middle what I'm at. On the West Side, on the West Side, on the West Side, on the West Side.
Austin. Austin is bordered by the Belt Railway just east of Cicero Avenue on the east, the Milwaukee District West Line to the north, and Roosevelt Road to the south. Austin is the third largest community area in Chicago by population, with 96,753 residents, surpassed only by the near North Side and Lakeview. Austin is also the second largest neighborhood in total land area. Crime in Austin is significantly higher than the national average. Overall crime rates sit at about 113% above the U.S. average, and violent crime climbs even further, roughly 173% higher. For residents, that translates into a stark reality. In Austin, there is about a 1 in 23 chance of becoming a victim of crime.
There were multiple shootings over the weekend, including 3 in the Austin neighborhood.
2 people were killed and many others were wounded. Winnie Dortch is live at police headquarters with more. Winnie?
Good morning. Well, these shootings happening within hours apart. The victims, a 22-year-old woman and an 18-year-old man. He has now been identified as Caleb Williams. Now, the first shooting happening around 1:45 a.m. Sunday in the 200 block of North Lamont Avenue. A 20-year-old woman was shot in the arm multiple times. She was taken to the hospital in good condition. 1 hour later, police responded to the 100 block of North LaCrosse Avenue, where several people were shot. The 22-year-old woman was shot in the back. She died at the hospital. The third shooting taking place just after 4:30 a.m. in the 5,000 block of West Maypole. Police say 2 18-year-olds were arguing with 2 unknown offenders. The suspects approached them in a car and it turned physical. The 2 got out of the car and shot both 18-year-olds. One of the 18-year-olds died at the hospital, shot twice in the back. Police have not confirmed if any of these shootings were related or possibly a team takeover.
I heard somebody said 2,000. But it was 2,000 just on this block.
By the 1920s, the neighborhood was a thriving commuter community with developed street railways, growing industry, and a large European immigrant population, reaching about 140,000 residents. Institutions like Loretto Hospital helped solidify the area as a stable middle-class neighborhood. After World War II, however, the Great Migration brought a rising number of black residents to the West Side. By 1970, the community was 32% black, and a decade later 73%, marking a dramatic demographic shift. By the 1980s, the once bustling business corridors along Chicago Avenue, Madison Street, and Lake Street had deteriorated into abandoned storefronts and vacant lots, becoming hotspots for crime and drug activity. Grand homes and towering apartment buildings that once symbolized Austin's prosperity fell into disrepair, now housing some of the city's poorest black residents. As economic decline deepened, gangs, especially factions of the vice lords, came to dominate the streets. Heroin trafficking surged along Chicago Avenue and Cicero Avenue, moving product not only throughout the neighborhood but into the surrounding wealthy suburbs. The scale of the operation earned the area a notorious nickname, the Heroin Superhighway, with several vice lord factions emerging as its biggest distributors.
But the love of money is a mother. Took a lot of people away and brought a lot of people in.
Money is something Wayne Edwards seems to know something about. On the west side, they call him Jack Bobo, and they see evidence of his success. Diamond bracelets, diamond rings, Dom Perignon, and long limousines. Jack Bobo, according to his indictment last month, is one of the leaders of the Black Soul street gang. Black Souls and Jack Bobo, according to the indictment, sold $50,000 worth of heroin on Chicago streets every day. A case in point is this man. Remy Baker, according to federal officials and Chicago police, is high on the ladder of international Nigerian drug runners. And Baker is accused of having a direct link to Jack Bobo and the Black Souls of Chicago. Baker and 3 other Nigerians are indicted for the delivery of heroin here. Jack Bobo and others are accused of operating an open-air market selling that China White heroin at Walnut and Holman on Chicago's west side.
Austin notable gangs and hoods. L Block/Toss Gang. The Four Corner Hustlers of the North Avenue corridor around Laramie and Lemoyne, a stronghold widely known as the home of Von Off 1700. TNG Ghost Mob, a.k.a. Troy and Gerald Ghost Mob, is a conservative vice lord set that was home to late rapper Pluto 2 times. North Lawndale. The neighborhood is bounded by Arlington Street, Taylor Street, and 5th Avenue to the north, 21st Street, Cermak Road, and the railroad tracks to the south, with railroad tracks marking both the eastern and western edges. With a population around 31,244 residents. Crime rates in North Lawndale sit at staggering levels, roughly 186% higher than the national average, with violent crime estimated to be 337% above the national average. Residents of the neighborhood face about a 1 in 17 chance of becoming a victim of crime.
Neighbors we spoke to say they are scared and disturbed by what happened at this home. Just hours ago, firefighters were there putting out a fire when they came upon a crime scene in the basement.
I'm frustrated and I'm scared and all the above because we don't know what happened.
After 60 years on this block in North Lawndale, she's seen a lot, but nothing like this.
We never had a murder.
The woman we met on Kirkland Avenue wants to stay anonymous.
I was cooking and I heard this glass breaking.
But she lives close to the house that was on fire just before 9 o'clock Friday night.
I came to the window and I saw it was like a Christmas lit up, 4 fire trucks, and then I found out that, it was a fire, but then my neighbor was down in the basement.
Radio traffic reveals and police sources confirm firefighters found a 68-year-old man dead inside the home and partially dismembered.
They've been severed off. 2 arms are missing. 1 leg is severed off.
That's scary and spooky.
People on the block describe the man as friendly and neighborly.
That's the scary part. Who killed him and why?
The fire is being investigated as possible arson. A few cans were carried away from the scene in a plastic bag.
I can sleep. It's crazy.
A night like no other this block has ever seen before.
North Lawndale was annexed from Cicero Township in 1869. After the Great Chicago Fire, plant workers moved to the area to work at the McCormick Reaper Company. The neighborhood was first dominated by Czech immigrants, later becoming home to Jewish families from Maxwell Street. North Lawndale is known for its historical architecture and has the largest concentration of graystone buildings found anywhere in Chicago. By the 1950s, with the neighborhood's black population growing rapidly, public housing was introduced to provide affordable homes for lower-income black families. Completed in 1954, the Ogden Courts Public Housing Project was the only such development in North Lawndale. Ogden Courts consisted of 2 7-story buildings and 136 units. While gangs such as the Vice Lords and Egyptian Cobras were present, Ogden Courts were not dominated by gang activity. In 1966, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. spent time living in an apartment in North Lawndale at 1550 South Hamlin Avenue to draw attention to the neighborhood's dire housing conditions. His experience there helped shine a national spotlight on discriminatory housing practices and laid important groundwork for the passage of the Fair Housing Act. By late 60s and early 70s, North Lawndale entered a period of sharp decline. Manufacturing plants closed, businesses left, and jobs disappeared, leaving large parts of the neighborhood economically hollowed. Aging buildings, abandoned lots, and mounting neglect became common, while exploitative housing practices and segregationist policies further eroded stability and community wealth. Over time, these conditions created fertile ground for gangs, crime, and violence. North Lawndale notable gangs and hoods. KO Gang /WDB. Main Block, 15th and Costner, with 15th and Colon also known as a notable stronghold. The area has long been associated with the Gangster Disciples. JCG Bean Team 1200. Around Roosevelt and Lawndale, Bean Team is one of the most dangerous sets in Chicago with rivals all over the West Side. MBE/1300. Millboys ENT, also known as MBE, is primarily based around the 13th and Millard area. Humboldt Park. The city of Chicago defines Humboldt Park's official boundaries as Bloomingdale Avenue to the north, the Union Pacific Railroad tracks to the south, the train tracks between Costner and Cicero to the west, and Humboldt Park itself to the east. The population of the neighborhood sits at around 53,832 residents. Crime in Humboldt Park runs far above the national average. Overall, the neighborhood's crime rate is about 213% higher than the U.S. average, with violent crimes around 263% higher. Residents face a significantly elevated risk, with roughly a 1 in 16 chance of being a victim of crime.
24 people were shot in Chicago between midnight and 5 o'clock this morning. One of the mass shootings captured on surveillance video. Sunday night, hundreds of young people gathered socially in the street near Pulaski and Iowa in Humboldt Park. They swarmed this Shell gas station. Employees tell me they had to lock the doors because of the sheer masses. As the crowd continued to grow, gunfire broke out just before 1 a.m. Hundreds of people seen running for cover. From another angle, you can see people ducking behind cars to avoid the gunfire. The gunman was not captured on these surveillance cameras, but at least one other person at the gathering did have a gun. A 15-year-old girl was shot in the neck and taken to Stroger Hospital in serious condition, while 4 other victims with gunshot wounds, ranging from 18 to 35 years old, were taken to various hospitals in fair condition. Another woman also broke her ankle in the midst of terror.
People trying to figure out where their friends and loved ones had gone, which hospital they're going to. There were ambulances everywhere.
Crisis responder Pastor Donovan Price describes the chaotic scene as people's belongings flew everywhere in sheer panic.
Several people injured, trying to get first aid, people trying to help with first aid, people's belongings and stuff everywhere. That was one thing we saw, and everybody just chaos, basic chaos.
The gas station employee tells me they called the police for help 7 times and say it's not uncommon for young people to gather here on the weekends.
Named after the naturalist Alexander von Humboldt, the area was annexed into the city in 1869. Humboldt Park is part of the historic K-Town. This stretch of Humboldt Park, North Lawndale, and West Garfield Park, between Pulaski and Cicero, is defined by a striking pattern. Nearly every north-south street begins with the letter K, giving the neighborhood its distinctive identity. In its early days, Humboldt Park was dominated by European immigrant groups, Germans, Scandinavians, Poles, Italians, and Jews, who helped shape its cultural character. By the mid-20th century, large numbers of Puerto Rican residents began moving in. Humboldt Park is a vital center of Puerto Rican culture in Chicago, visible in its murals, community activism, and spirited celebrations. In early 1950s Humboldt Park, the Latin Kings were founded by Puerto Rican youth, led primarily by Ramon Santos, a teenage Cuban immigrant who had recently arrived in the city. Back then, Humboldt Park was a neighborhood where Greek and Italian greaser gangs dominated the streets and frequently targeted Puerto Ricans with racism and violence. In response, the young Puerto Ricans banded together to defend themselves, and confrontation quickly followed. The group originally called themselves the Imperials, but within a year the name, Latin Kings, would be established, and would eventually spread across Chicago and far beyond.
Yep, could have been somebody else.
So how long does this go on for?
How long?
Yeah,
What do you
how
mean?
long should go on for?
Yeah, there's no ending. There is no ending.
How long
This
is no
shit
ending?
keeps on. It happens to everybody.
It happens to everybody.
It can happen to everybody.
Somebody dies every day.
That's right.
Thousands of people die every day. Thousands. Well, how long does that go on for?
Until boy don't want nobody down here no more. Until everybody goes.
Until God don't want nobody.
Until the president presses the button and everybody goes. That's the only really who's got the power to do it.
You can wipe out all the old members of the gang bangers.
Exact day when it's going to finish.
You can wipe out all the old members from the gang bangers. They're still young. This is going to keep going and on and on.
As industrial jobs left Chicago and investment dried up, Humboldt Park plunged into economic hardship. The neighborhood became a focal point for gang formation, known as the birthplace of major groups like the Latin Kings, Maniac Latin Disciples, and Simon City Royals. Throughout the 1970s through the early 90s, drug trade and gang warfare became deeply embedded in parts of the community. While some areas have seen crime decline in recent years, gang activity and violence remain a persistent challenge in parts of Humboldt Park. Humboldt Park notable gangs and hoods. BBMG. BBMG is a conservative vice lord set based primarily around Ohio and Ridgeway, with influence spreading across several nearby blocks. The group is split into two internal cliques, Ridgeway/600, Ohio and Ridgeway, and 600, Ohio and Hamlin. Grand City/Speedy Gang. Grand City emerged around the mid-80s and has since developed into a multi-block coalition with three distinct subsets. Each clique holds down its own territory, HH on Hirsch and Hamlin, GGM/Speedy Gang around Grand and Springfield, and DA near Division and Avers, but all operate under the broader Grand City identity. East Garfield Park. The neighborhood is bordered by the Union Pacific Railroad tracks to the north, Arthington and Taylor Streets to the south, Hamlin Avenue and Independence Boulevard to the west, and Rockwell Street to the east. The area has a population of around 19,995 residents. Crime in East Garfield Park sits dramatically above the national average. Overall crime rates are about 225% higher than the U.S. average, and violent crime rises even more sharply, roughly 383% higher. That translates to an alarming level of risk. In East Garfield Park, residents face about a 1 in 15 chance of becoming a victim of crime.
Her mother says Angel Young remains in serious condition with a bullet lodged in the back of her neck. after being struck by what police say was a random bullet fired during a shootout on the street below. Sharon Young could hear the gunfire coming from the street outside her second-floor apartment last night.
It was like a bum, 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 bum. Then it's rapid shots behind that, several rapid shots.
Young says it went on for possibly 15 seconds. She believes it was coming from people in cars exchanging gunfire. But she never imagined the shots would enter the second-floor bedroom of her 41-year-old daughter, Angel, who was sleeping. 2 bullets, however, apparently entered through the window, one striking her daughter in the face, near her eye.
My daughter, she was asleep. She was laying down asleep, so not looking in the window, not just a random shot.
Neighbors also heard the shots and went for cover, including Trina Hunt, who is 5 months pregnant, but worried about her neighbor, Angel.
It broke me down to hear that it was her and to see her being carried out into the ambulance in a chair and to be put on the stretcher, it was heartbreaking.
Sharon Young says the apartments near the corner of Christiana and Gladys in the East Garfield Park neighborhood are owned by her family, which occupies the entire building. She says it's normally a quiet neighborhood, and her faith is now helping her get through this.
Following World War II, East Garfield Park entered a period of decline. Aging housing deteriorated and many residents were displaced by the construction of the Congress Street, now Eisenhower Expressway, which cut through the southern part of the neighborhood. In the 1950s, the Chicago Housing Authority built several public housing projects near and north of the expressway, including Harrison Courts, Maplewood Courts, and Rockwell Gardens. Rockwell Gardens was one of the largest public housing developments on the west side of Chicago before being demolished in the early 2000s. The project spanned roughly 17 acres and included more than 1,100 units spread across multiple high-rise buildings.
Disciple. So 9 times out of 10, everybody will meet up at this store. This is most likely where all the shooting take places. We have one store that everybody has to go to. So you're going to have the violence between the disciples at the Bible because there's nowhere for them to go. There's nothing for them to do. So you're going to have that animosity. You're going to have because money. There's not enough money in the community. There's not enough activity in the community. It's just not enough of anything really in the community. Now this building up here, this is the disciple building. It's like, this is one part where nothing goes but disciples. If you turn your camera and look at the building here, this is Vice Lords here. This is Vice Lords. What you watching is nothing but Vice Lords. All the way around, all the way to these projects over here. That is the old folks' home there. This building here is the projects. This building here, that building there, them is like Vice Lord building. This is the only disciple building that we have over here. This is where the war come in at. Right here. This same spot here. This is like the war. This is like where the war be, right here.
By 1960, the community's demographics had shifted significantly, with black people making up 62% of the population, joined by growing Mexican and Puerto Rican immigrant communities. As industries began shifting from rail-based operations to truck-dependent facilities further outside the city, many factories and warehouses abandoned the area, taking stable working-class jobs with them. With economic opportunities disappearing, disinvestment surged, buildings deteriorated, property values collapsed, and overcrowded under-resourced public housing developments intensified social pressures. Little Village. Little Village is bordered by Ogden Avenue to the north, the railroad tracks along 33rd Street to the south, Kedzie Avenue on the east, and another set of railroad tracks to the west. The neighborhood has a population of approximately 75,000 residents. Little Village, often called the Mexico of the Midwest, is a dense, culturally rich community located in the western and central portions of South Lawndale. The area encompasses two distinct neighborhoods, Little Village itself and Marshall Square, and today has the largest concentration of Mexican residents in the city, with more than 80% of the population being of Mexican descent. Little Village has long been shadowed by the grip of crime and gang violence. The neighborhood's dense blocks and tight alleyways have become battlegrounds for rival crews, with conflicts often spilling into everyday life. Shootings, turf disputes, and long-standing gang rivalries, most notably involving the Latin Kings and 2-6, have shaped the reality of many residents.
Niggas know, our city is segregated already. Blacks here, whites there, like we don't grow up mixed. It's all niggas at the school, you feel me? It's whites over there, Mexicans over there. Niggas know you don't go in no Mexican neighborhood, they gonna kill you. First thing they gonna do, like niggas talk about Cook County, niggas scared to come out Cook County. Niggas are gonna be a bunch of Mexicans coming out there, motherfucker. GDK, that's what they doing. They gonna try to trick you and blow you down. Oh my mama, niggas know. Everybody, ask any nigga in Chicago, nigga. Man, you better be on point. Your ride better be out there when you get bonded out, nigga. For real, nigga. Nigga will kill you up there. But Mexicans always there. I done had Mexicans shoot at me in Chicago. I done had.
Little Village is not only a cultural center, but also a major economic force in Chicago. Its 26th Street commercial corridor is the city's second highest grossing shopping district, generating around $900 million in sales in 2015, second only to Michigan Avenue, which brought in roughly $1.8 billion that year.
A reward now being offered to help catch the shooter behind a deadly jewelry store robbery. Surveillance video shows the final moments of the two victims, a father and son, chasing the robber down the street. Asal Razai has details from Little Village.
The family is devastated. They told me off camera they can't imagine how they're going to get through the holidays that are just around the corner. Business owners in this area in shock. The shooting happened in the middle of this busy street. There's a growing memorial of flowers and candles in front of Joyeria Angelo's jewelry store. This is where a robbery turned deadly Saturday night, leaving 63-year-old Faustino Alamo and his 25-year-old son Luis shot and fighting for their lives in the street. Here's surveillance video from a nearby business showing the moments before and after the shooting around 5:45 that night. You'll see a man crossing 26th Street. As he gets closer to the store, you'll see he's wearing a Chicago Blackhawks jersey and appears to slip a hat over his head before walking into the store. Within 15 seconds, you see the same guy stumble out of the shop. Another man runs out after him. You see them struggle into the street as cars are driving by. Moments later, someone else runs out of the store after them. The video shows them all running across 26th Street. Moments before, you hear over 20 gunshots. We're freezing the video before those shots were fired.
Be advised now, 2600 South Springfield, they're calling for 2 people shot in the street.
Police say the father and son were both shot multiple times, taken to Mount Sinai Hospital in critical condition, and later pronounced dead.
By the early to mid-70s, the landscape shifted as new gangs emerged and older ones expanded their territory. Through the late 1980s, shootings became a near-daily occurrence, and smaller groups were overwhelmed as the Latin Kings and 2-6 battled for dominance. Both sides turned heavily to drug distribution, and the violence escalated into a cycle of retaliation that defined the streets. Through the 1970s, 1980s, and 1990s, Little Village endured some of its most brutal years, ultimately becoming known as one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Chicago. Little Village notable gangs and hoods. Darkside /2500. A gangster 2-6 set, their territory spans blocks like 25th and Keeler and 24th and Karlov, with this section, known as the Dark Side, widely regarded as one of the most established and reputable 2-6 hoods. Red Rum City. 30th and Sawyer was the original hangout spot for the 2-6. But before long, they moved on, and the Latin Kings moved in, taking over the area that once belonged to their rivals. Boulevard 24/Rico Block. 24th and Sacramento is tied to the origins of the Markings, a group of Mexican youths formed in the summer of 1962 by White Sal at 24th and Marshall Boulevard in the Marshall Square section of South Lawndale. West Garfield Park. West Garfield Park is bordered by Kinsey Street and the railroad tracks to the north, 5th Avenue to Taylor Street to the south, Hamlin Avenue and Independence Boulevard on the east, and Kenton Avenue along with the railroad tracks on the west. The area has a population of around 17,423 residents. West Garfield Park is frequently cited as one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in Chicago, with high rates of violent crime. Some reports indicate it has the highest crime rate in the city, with incidents exceeding 11,000 per 100,000 people. Crime in West Garfield Park is dramatically higher than the national average. Overall crime rates sit at about 362% above the U.S. average, and violent crime rises to a staggering 587% higher. For residents, that risk is impossible to ignore. In West Garfield Park, there is about a 1 in 11 chance of becoming a victim of crime.
Yeah, Susanna, a 16-year-old boy in serious condition here at the emergency room where we've seen a lot of activity over the last couple of hours. I want to show you new video we've gotten into our newsroom that shows you video of that scene on the west side where this shooting happened. You'll see police tape stretched across the street there as officers are collecting evidence. We saw at least 10 evidence markers in the street and on the sidewalk. You also see trash everywhere, to-go cups and food containers. This is on Wilcox near Kilbourne, just a few miles from the hospital here. Police say the shooting happened just before 2 o'clock this morning. They were initially responding to calls of a person shot, ended up finding multiple victims there. 2 teenagers, 2 adults with gunshot wounds. There's 2 28-year-old men that were shot, one of them in serious condition after being shot in the neck and in the head. The other 28-year-old in good condition, thankfully, with a graze wound to the leg. We know one of those teens is just 15 years old. He was shot multiple times throughout his body. He's in good condition at Mount Sinai Hospital, not far from here. We know that other teen victim we mentioned, 16 years old, was shot multiple times throughout his body. At last check, again, he was here at Stroger Hospital in serious condition. From the looks of that video, we know this happened outside during what looked to be some sort of gathering with all the trash that was left behind. We know police are still investigating the circumstances around this shooting.
Ongoing conflicts, open-air drug markets, and retaliatory shootings have shaped daily life, leaving many residents caught between fear and resilience. For a community once defined by growth and optimism, the struggle today is for safety, stability, and survival. West Garfield Park, a 1 square mile neighborhood just west of one of the largest botanical conservatories in the country, has suffered nearly 1,000 shootings over the last 5 years, averaging roughly one every other day. Its population has steadily declined since the 1950s, from around 50,000 shrinking to about 17,000 residents today. West Garfield Park notable gangs and hoods. MNS. Centered around Jackson and Springfield, with territory stretching across Madison, Pulaski, Gladys, and Wilcox. Affiliations include Four Corner Hustlers, Traveling Vice Lords, and Unknown Vice Lords.